The great archive of the Galactic Academy was silent. Tall shelves stretched high into the dark ceiling, filled with glowing records from thousands of worlds. The place smelled of dust and age, as if the knowledge of the galaxy had been locked, away for centuries. An alien girl walked slowly between the shelves. Her name was Lyra, and she was young, curious, and full of questions. Her large silver eyes scanned the rows of files. She wanted to learn about humans, a strange species she had only heard about in whispers. Every time she asked about them, other students turned away. Some laughed nervously. Others shook their heads. Teachers avoided the subject. Even the official lectures about dangerous species never mentioned humans directly. But Lyra was different. She could not ignore the mystery. Finally, she found a small glowing tablet at the end of a dark shelf. On the cover was a single word written in bold letters: Deathworlders. Lyra frowned. She had heard the word before, whispered in hallways, spoken by officers with fear in their voices. She did not understand it. She touched the tablet and it came to life. The words on the first page were short but chilling. Warning: contact with humans is dangerous. They are classified as Deathworlders. Approach with caution. Her heart raced. What did this mean? Why would an entire species be given such a name? She turned the page, but the record was locked. A message appeared. Restricted access. Lyra bit her lip. She hated secrets. She wanted to know the truth. She had always believed knowledge should be open, not hidden. But here, in the most respected archive of the galaxy, she found fear instead of answers. She sat down at a desk, the tablet glowing faintly in her hands. All around her, the great archive felt colder, darker. She imagined shadows moving between the shelves. The word Deathworlders echoed in her mind. At that moment, her mentor entered the archive. His name was Professor Kale, a tall, older alien with gray skin and tired eyes. He saw the tablet in her hands and froze. "Where did you find that?" he asked sharply. "On the shelf," Lyra said softly. "Professor, what does it mean? Why are humans called Deathworlders?" Kyle stepped closer, his voice low. "You should not be reading this. Those records are locked for a reason. Forget what you saw." "But why?" Lyra pressed. "Humans are just another species, aren't they? Small, weak, not advanced compared to others. Why would anyone fear them?" The professor's expression darkened. He looked around as if afraid the shelves themselves might be listening. Then he leaned closer. "You do not understand, child. Humans are different. Their world is a place no other species could endure. Their bodies and minds were shaped by danger and pain. They are survivors of a planet that tries to kill them every day. That is why we call them Deathworlders." Lyra's eyes widened. The professor's words only deepened her curiosity. She wanted to ask more, but Kale shook his head. "No more questions. The truth is too dangerous. Curiosity about humans has destroyed careers and lives. Promise me you will leave this alone." But Lyra could not promise. Her mind burned with questions. What kind of world was Earth? How could humans live there? Why did the galaxy fear them so much? She returned the tablet to the shelf, but her thoughts stayed on the name. Deathworlders. The word sounded heavy, like a warning carved into stone. As she left the archive, she felt eyes watching her from the shadows. Perhaps it was her imagination, or perhaps it was the weight of the truth pressing closer. The academy halls were quiet, but her heart pounded with excitement and fear. That night, Lyra sat by her window, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, humans lived among the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, the so-called Death World. She wondered what secrets it held, what stories it could tell. And deep inside, she knew she could not stop now. She had touched the edge of a mystery bigger than anything she had ever known. She would learn the truth about humans no matter what. It cost far away. In another corner of the galaxy, a human looked up at the same stars. Neither of them knew that their paths would soon cross. And when they did, The galaxy would never be the same. The story of the Deathworlders was only beginning. The morning bell echoed across the Galactic Academy. Students hurried through the shining halls, carrying datapads and whispering about their next lessons. But Lyra walked slowly, her mind far away from the day's classes. The word Deathworlders still echoed inside her head, sharp and heavy. She could not forget the look on Professor Kale's face. He had been afraid, not of her, but of the name itself, afraid of the truth. That fear made her even more curious. When the lesson began, Kale spoke about diplomacy between alien races, about peace and treaties. The students took notes, nodding politely, but Lyra barely heard a word. She stared at the professor, her silver eyes full of questions. Finally, when class ended, she stayed behind. The others left, laughing and chatting. The hall grew quiet. "Professor," she said softly, "I want to understand." Kale sighed. He set his datapad down and rubbed his forehead. "Understand what, Lyra?" "The humans," she whispered. "Why are they called Deathworlders? Why does everyone avoid the subject? Why are they feared?" The professor's eyes grew dark. He looked at her for a long moment as if deciding whether to answer. At last he spoke, his voice low. "Fear is not without reason. Do you know what Earth is?" Lyra nodded slowly. "It is their homeworld, a small planet orbiting a yellow sun." "Yes," Kale said, "but you do not know what kind of world it is. Earth is unlike most worlds in the galaxy. Where we come from safety, they come from danger. Where we grow in peace, they grow in war." He leaned closer, his voice heavy with memory. "Storms that could tear down entire cities. Beasts with teeth sharper than metal. Diseases that kill without warning. Even the plants are armed with poison. Their planet fights against life. Yet, somehow life thrives, and at the center of it are the humans." Lyra listened in silence, her chest tight. The image forming in her mind was frightening, but it also made her pulse quicken with wonder. "But still," she said carefully, "surviving danger does not make them monsters. It makes them strong, yes. But why call them Deathworlders? Why such a terrible name?" Kale's voice hardened. "Because strength born from death is different from strength born from peace. Humans are not like us. They are unpredictable, violent, and reckless. They do not surrender when they should. They fight when others would run. That is why the galaxy fears them." Lyra frowned. "But maybe that is why the galaxy should respect them too." The professor froze. His eyes narrowed. "Respect can turn into fear. Fear can turn into war. Entire empires have learned this truth the hard way. Remember this, child. Curiosity about humans will only bring you pain." But Lyra could not stop now. The fire inside her was burning too brightly. She thought of the locked records, the warnings, the whispers. She thought of the word written in bold letters. Deathworlders. She left the classroom, her mind racing. Her friends tried to speak to her in the hall, but she barely noticed them. The academy suddenly felt different, like every corner held a secret. That night she visited the observatory. The great dome opened above her, revealing the stars. She searched the maps until her eyes found it. A small blue planet far across, the void. Earth. She stared at it for a long time, wondering about the humans who lived there. Were they truly as dangerous as Kale said? Or was there more to the story? For hours she sat in silence, watching the stars. Finally, she whispered to herself, "I must know the truth." The next day she asked other professors. They all gave the same answer: silence. Some looked away. Others told her to focus on her studies. One simply laughed nervously and walked out of the room. But their silence only fed her determination. She began searching the academy's library again, digging deeper, trying to find anything not locked away. Fragments of reports, small mentions in trade records, rumors in old files. One line she found struck her most. Humans adapt to anything. Where others perish, they endure. Adapt, survive, endure. Those words repeated in her mind. She began to imagine what it would be like to meet one, to look into the eyes of a Deathworlder and see for herself what the galaxy feared. Would she find a monster, or something else entirely? Her journey had already begun, though she did not know it. The questions she asked were doors, and one by one, they were opening. Beyond them lay a truth greater than anything she had imagined. The galaxy feared humans, but Lyra was not afraid. She was curious, and curiosity is a dangerous path. As she walked back to her room that evening, she felt the weight of unseen eyes once again. Whispers followed her in the halls. She realized she was not the only one who knew she was asking questions. Others were watching. Others were listening. And somewhere far away, humans lived their lives, unaware that a young alien girl was beginning to unravel the secret of their name. The mystery of the Deathworlders was deepening, and Lyra was stepping into its shadows. The next evening, the great academy was quiet. The halls were almost empty, the lights dimmed to save power. Most students had returned to their quarters. But Lyra walked alone toward the deepest level of the library. Her heart raced with every step. She knew she should not be there. She knew the records were restricted, yet the questions in her mind were louder than the warnings. She wanted answers. She needed them. The archive doors opened with a soft hiss, and the silence inside welcomed her. Tall shelves stood like guardians of forgotten knowledge. Lyra's hands trembled as she searched. At last, hidden at the back of a dusty corner, she found an older datapad. Its screen flickered weakly, as if even the device itself was tired. She pressed it awake. Words appeared. Earth, homeworld of humanity. Classification, Deathworld. Category 5. Lyra frowned. She had never seen that classification before. Category 5. The number alone sounded severe. She scrolled down, and the records unfolded. Before her eyes, average surface temperature, extreme variation, freezing winters, burning summers, storms capable of destroying entire regions, floods, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions. Her mouth went dry. Fauna, highly aggressive, predators with claws, teeth, and venom, capable of killing most intelligent species in moments. Some species attack without hunger, driven by territory or instinct. She imagined walking through a forest where every sound might mean death. Flora, defensive. Poison, thorns, toxins. Even plants can kill. She shivered. Even plants? How could life survive in such a place? But the records went on. Pathogens, countless. Diseases that adapt faster than medicine. Plagues that wipe out millions. Her chest tightened. She turned the page quickly, but the words only grew darker. Environment, unstable. Fires, storms, shifting climates. Survival requires constant adaptation. Lyra sat back, her silver, eyes wide with shock. Earth was not a homeworld, it was a battlefield. Every day, every season, life fought against death. She whispered to herself, how do they live there? Her mind filled with images. Humans standing in snow while icy winds howled. Humans running from beasts with sharp fangs. Humans fighting storms that could rip entire cities apart. And yet, the records were clear. They did live there. They did survive. She scrolled further and found fragments of history. Reports of wars fought with weapons powerful enough to destroy whole nations. Records of humans traveling across oceans filled with danger. Stories of explorers climbing mountains so high other species would never dare. But it was not only violence she saw. There were also stories of survival and courage. Humans helping one another after disasters. Humans refusing to surrender even when the odds were hopeless. Humans rebuilding again and again after everything was lost. Her heart trembled. She felt fear, yes, but also admiration. Then she found a single sentence that made her stop breathing for a moment. Where most species Adapt slowly over thousands of years. Humans adapt within days. She read it twice, then a third time. Adapt within days? That sounded impossible, but it explained so much. If their world tried to kill them every day, then perhaps that was why they grew strong so quickly. Perhaps that was why the galaxy called them Deathworlders. Her thoughts raced. Were they dangerous? Yes, but maybe they were more than that. Maybe they were something else entirely. Suddenly, the data pad flickered and shut off. Lyra's heart jumped. She tried to restart it, but a red warning appeared. Access denied, restricted data. Footsteps echoed in the archive. She quickly slid the datapad back onto the shelf and hid in the shadows. 2 Academy guards entered, scanning the rows. One of them spoke in a low voice. Someone has been trying to unlock restricted files again. Lyra's pulse thundered in her ears. She pressed herself against the cold wall, holding her breath. The guards passed by, their lights sweeping across the shelves, but they did not see her. After a few tense moments, they left. When silence returned, Lyra slipped out quietly. Her body trembled, but her mind burned brighter than ever. That night, in her small room, she stared at the stars once again. Somewhere out there, humans were living on Earth, facing storms, beasts, and plagues. They were not just surviving, they were thriving. She whispered, "Maybe that is why they are feared. Maybe that is why they are respected." She closed her eyes, but sleep did not come. Her dreams were filled with fire, storms, and shadowy human figures walking through chaos without fear. The records had given her answers, but also more questions. Were humans truly monsters of survival, or were they heroes shaped by suffering? One thing was certain: she had only seen the surface. The truth was deeper, darker, and far more dangerous than she imagined, and now she wanted to see it with her own eyes. The secret of the Deathworlders was no longer just a story in the archives. It was a path, and Lyra had already taken her first steps. The galaxy feared humanity, but Lyra was ready to learn why. The academy was alive with noise that morning. Students hurried through the halls, carrying datapads, talking about schedules, and preparing for the day's training. But for Lyra, nothing felt ordinary anymore. Her mind was still full of the things she had read. Images of Earth's storms, its beasts, and its endless dangers haunted her thoughts. She had learned why the galaxy called humans Deathworlders, but she had not yet seen one herself. That was about to change. The academy had welcomed new exchange students from different worlds. Rumor whispered through the halls. One of them is human. The word spread quickly, carried in hushed tones and uneasy stares. Lyra's heart raced when she heard it. A human, here, in the academy? It felt impossible. And yet, as she walked into the training hall, she saw him. He stood taller than most of the students, his shoulders broad, his movements steady. His skin was pale compared to her own silver glow, and his hair was short and dark. His eyes were sharp, watching everything, with calm focus. The room grew quieter when he entered. Some students avoided looking at him. Others stared with open curiosity or hidden fear. Lyra could not look away. This was her first human, a real Deathworlder. The instructor introduced him simply. "This is Cadet Aaron. He will be joining your class." Aaron gave a small nod. His expression was calm, almost casual, as if the heavy silence around him meant nothing. The training began. Students were paired into small groups for practice drills. Lyra found herself distracted, stealing glances at Aaron. She noticed the way he moved, quick, controlled, confident. His hands carried scars, small white lines across his skin. When the drills ended, the instructor called for sparring matches. Volunteers stepped forward nervously. When Aaron's turn came, he stepped into the ring without hesitation. His opponent, a strong reptilian student, hissed and showed sharp teeth, trying to intimidate him. But Aaron's face did not change. He stood calmly, waiting. The signal sounded. The reptilian rushed forward with speed and power. Aaron dodged smoothly. turning aside with simple, efficient motion. The fight lasted less than a minute. Aaron's counter was quick, precise, and controlled, not cruel, but final. His opponent landed on the ground, defeated but unharmed. The hall was silent. Even the instructor looked uneasy. Lyra's heart pounded. She had seen many sparring matches, but none like this. Aaron had not moved with anger or pride. He had moved with certainty, as if danger was something he understood better than anyone else. After training, students whispered in corners. Some called him dangerous. Others said nothing at all. Lyra stayed behind. She found Aaron sitting alone near the window, tying his boots. She hesitated, then walked closer. "Hello?" she said softly. Aaron looked up. His eyes met hers. They were steady, deep, and strangely warm. For a moment, she felt caught, like he could see through her questions. "You're not afraid?" he said simply. Lyra blinked. "Should I be?" He gave a small smile. "Most are." She tilted her head, curiosity burning inside her. "Is it true? What they say about your world, about humans?" Aaron's smile faded. He leaned back, thinking for a moment. "Depends on what they say." "They call you Deathworlders," she whispered. He looked out the window at the stars. "That's one name for us." Lyra stepped closer. "But why? Why fear humans so much?" Aaron's gaze shifted back to her. His voice was calm, but there was weight behind it. "Because we don't quit. No matter how bad it gets, we keep fighting. On Earth, if you quit, you die. That's how we grew up. That's how we survive." Lyra felt a shiver run through her. The way he said it. It wasn't boasting. It was truth. Simple, heavy truth. For the first time, she understood a little more. The records had shown facts. But Aaron showed something else, the human spirit. Before she could ask more, the instructor called Aaron away. He stood, nodded politely to her, and left. Lyra remained by the window, her thoughts racing. She had seen a Deathworlder with her own eyes. He was not a monster. He was not a beast. He was calm, scarred, and strong in a way she could not fully explain, and she wanted to know more. That night, she wrote in her notes, "Humans are dangerous, yes, but not because of their strength. Because of something deeper, something inside them. I must learn what it is." As she set down her pen, she felt the air in her room shift, as if the galaxy itself had leaned closer to listen. She knew this was only the beginning. Her first encounter with a human had not answered her questions. It had only created more, and, somewhere deep inside, she felt the story of the Deathworlders was about to become her story too. The Academy training ship floated silently in orbit, its silver hull glowing under the light of a nearby star. Inside, cadets hurried through narrow halls preparing for their first survival exercise outside the Academy walls. Excitement buzzed in the air, mixed with nerves. Lyra walked with her group, her datapad clutched tight. This was the moment every student trained for. A real test. A mission designed to push them beyond comfort. She glanced around at the other cadets, their faces full of both fear and determination. But her eyes kept drifting back to Aaron, the human. He walked at the back of the group, calm and quiet. Where others looked nervous, he looked steady, as if danger was already familiar to him. That quiet confidence unsettled her, yet also drew her closer. The instructor briefed them quickly. "This is a controlled exercise. You will face simulated hazards inside the ship. Stay together. Work as a team. Survival is the goal." The cadets nodded. The doors opened and they stepped into the darkened training wing. The air was colder here, the lights dim, shadows stretching across the walls. At first it was simple. A few locked doors, a sudden drop in gravity, small challenges to test their teamwork. The students worked together, solving problems with nervous laughter. But then the alarms blared, red lights flashed. A deep rumble shook the floor, Smoke hissed from the walls. A real fire was spreading through the corridor ahead. "This isn't simulation," one cadet shouted, panic in his voice. The group froze. Some screamed. Others turned in circles, not knowing what to do. The smoke grew thicker, choking the air. Lyra coughed, her eyes burning. Fear clawed at her chest. She saw her classmates pushing at each other, each one desperate to escape. The instructor's voice crackled through the comms. "System failure. Training wing compromised. You must evacuate immediately." The cadets broke into chaos, but not Aaron. While others panicked, he moved with sharp focus. He grabbed a fallen cadet by the arm, pulling him to his feet. "Stay low," he commanded firmly, his voice cutting through the noise. "Crawl under the smoke. Follow the wall." No one argued. Even the strongest cadets obeyed his voice. His tone wasn't angry, it was certain. He pushed open a side panel and tore out wires with his bare hands, bypassing a locked hatch. The door hissed open. He ushered the others through quickly, shielding their backs with his own body as flames licked closer. Lyra followed, her heart hammering. Every move Aaron made felt natural, practiced. Not like training, but like memory. They reached a larger chamber, but the danger wasn't over. The fire had spread. Parts of the ceiling had collapsed, blocking their path. Metal beams glowed red-hot. The air was heavy with heat. One cadet cried out, trapped under debris. Others hesitated, too afraid to move. Aaron didn't stop. He ran, forward, his muscles straining as he lifted the burning beam. Smoke curled around his face, but his jaw stayed set. His teeth clenched. With a loud grunt, he freed the cadet and pulled him to safety. "Keep moving," he ordered. "Don't stop now." Lyra's chest tightened as she watched. The records had spoken of human endurance, human survival, but now she was seeing it with her own eyes. Where others froze, Aaron acted. Where others feared death, he fought it. Finally, they reached the emergency hatch. Aaron sealed it behind them, cutting off the flames. The cadets collapsed in the safe corridor, coughing and gasping for air. For a long moment, no one spoke. The fire roared behind the sealed door, but here they were safe, alive. The instructor's voice returned, shaky but relieved. "Evacuation complete. Medical teams are on the way. Remain where you are." The cadets turned their eyes to Aaron. Some looked at him with awe, others with fear. Lyra's eyes never left his face. Sweat streaked his skin. His uniform was torn and burned, but his expression was calm, his breathing steady. He looked less like a survivor and more like a soldier who had done this many times before. Slowly, Lyra spoke. "You weren't afraid." Aaron glanced at her, then shook his head. "Fear is normal, but fear doesn't stop me." "Why?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Why do you keep moving when everyone else freezes?" He leaned back against the wall, his eyes distant. "Because where I come from, stopping means dying. On Earth, if you don't act, the world takes you. Fire, storm, beast, it doesn't matter. You act, or you die." The corridor fell silent. His words carried a weight no lesson, no datapad, no story could match. It was truth carved from survival itself. For the first time, the other cadets saw what the word Deathworlder meant. Not a monster, not a brute, but someone forged in fire, sharpened by danger, unbroken by fear. And for Lyra, the mystery deepened. She thought she had begun to understand humans, but after seeing Aaron in the fire, she realized she had only touched the surface. That night, as the Academy recovered from the accident, Lyra lay awake, her thoughts racing. She whispered to herself, "Now I see. The galaxy does not fear humans because of their world. It fears them because of what their world made them." But she also knew this was not the end. The test of survival had shown her the strength of a Deathworlder, but it had also raised a new question, one she could not stop thinking about. If humans could endure all of this, what else were they capable of? The Academy was quiet after the fire. Repairs had begun, and the smell of smoke still lingered faintly in the air. Students whispered about the accident, their voices filled with fear and awe. Most spoke of Aaron, the human who had led them through the flames. Lyra could not stop thinking about him. She remembered the way he had moved with certainty, the way he had lifted the beam without hesitation, the way his voice had steadied everyone else. She had seen fear in the other cadets, but in Aaron, she had seen something else, something stronger. That evening, she found him sitting alone in the academy gardens. The sky above shimmered with distant stars, and soft lights glowed between the leaves. He sat quietly on a stone bench, sharpening a small blade with calm, steady strokes. Lyra hesitated, then stepped closer. "May I sit?" she asked softly. Aaron looked up. His sharp eyes softened and he nodded. Of course. She sat beside him, her hands folded in her lap. For a moment, they watched the stars in silence. Finally, Lyra spoke. "I want to understand," she said. "I've read the records, I've heard the warnings. I saw what you did during the fire. But I still don't understand. Why do they call you Deathworlders? Why do they fear you so much?" Aaron's blade stilled. He set it down and leaned back, his eyes on the sky. "It's not an easy answer," he said slowly. "But I'll tell you what I can." Lyra's silver eyes fixed on him, eager for every word. "On Earth," Aaron began, "everything tries to kill you. The storms, the predators, the sicknesses. Even the ground under your feet can turn against you. You grow up knowing the world doesn't care if you live or die. So we learn to fight. We learn to endure. We learn to survive when we should have fallen." His voice was calm, but each word carried weight. "But it's not just the planet," he continued. "It's us too. Humans fight each other. We fight over land, over ideas, over pride. We've fought wars that lasted centuries. We've built weapons strong enough to destroy everything, and still we fight. Other species look at that and see madness." Lyra frowned. "Then maybe they're right to fear you." Aaron turned to her, his eyes steady. "Maybe. But what they don't see is the other side." She tilted her head. "The other side?" Aaron's voice softened. "Yes. We fight. But we also protect. When the fire came, I didn't think about myself. I thought about everyone else. That's what humans do. We don't give up, not on ourselves, and not on each other. Our world taught us to be hard, but it also taught us to care. Because on Earth, nobody survives alone." Lyra's chest tightened. The words touched something inside her. She remembered how he had carried the fallen cadet, how he had guided them through the smoke. Not just strong, but protective. Not just fearless, but selfless. "Do you see now?" Aaron asked quietly. "That's why we're called Deathworlders. We live where no one else could. We fight when no one else would. We survive when no one else can. To the galaxy, that makes us dangerous. To us, it just makes us human." The garden was silent. Only the soft hum of lights and the whisper of leaves filled the air. Lyra sat frozen, her heart pounding. For the first time she understood, not just the fear but the respect. The word Deathworlder was not only a warning, it was a truth carved by survival. "You're not what I expected," she whispered. Aaron smiled faintly. "Most people say that." They sat together in silence again, the stars above shining brighter than ever. Lyra's mind spun with everything she had heard. She thought of the records, the warnings, the fear in the professor's voice. And now she thought of Aaron's calm strength, his honesty, his humanity. She realized the galaxy was both right and wrong. Humans were dangerous, but not because they were monsters. Because they were survivors. Because nothing could break them. At last, Lyra spoke, her voice firm. "I think I understand now. The galaxy fears you, but maybe it also needs you." Aaron's eyes softened. He picked up his blade again, turning it in his hands. "Maybe," he said quietly. "Or maybe one day they'll have to face us. And then, The truth about Deathworlders will no longer be a story. It will be a reality. Lyra shivered at his words. She looked back at the stars, and for the first time she felt the weight of what it meant to live in a galaxy with humans. They were not just another species. They were something else. Something more. As the night deepened, she knew one thing for certain. Her journey was far from over. The secret of the Deathworlders had been revealed, but the story was only beginning. The Academy returned to order in the days after the fire, but nothing felt the same. The students walked the halls with unease, their whispers filled with Aaron's name. The human had become both a hero and a shadow in their minds. Some looked at him with respect, others with fear. For Lyra, it was different. She had heard his truth in the garden. She had seen his strength in the flames. And now she could not stop thinking about what it all meant. That evening, she went back to the great archive. The shelves seemed taller than ever, the shadows deeper. She searched for the tablet again, the one marked with the word Deathworlders. When she found it, she held it in her hands for a long time, her heart steady. She whispered to herself, "Now I understand." The word was not just a warning, it was a story. A legend whispered across the stars. The galaxy feared humans not because they were cruel, but because they were unbreakable. They had been shaped by a world that wanted them dead, and instead of dying, they had learned to thrive. Lyra closed her eyes and imagined Earth again. She saw storms tearing across mountains, oceans rising with fury, forests filled with predators. And in the center of it all, she saw humans, scarred, determined, standing tall against everything. She imagined how aliens must see them, strange, reckless, dangerous. But she also imagined how they saw themselves, protectors, fighters, survivors. That was the truth. That was the legend. The sound of footsteps pulled her from her thoughts. She turned and saw Aaron in the doorway, his eyes watching her quietly. "You're still searching," he said. Lyra nodded. "I'm not searching anymore. I think I've found it." He raised an eyebrow. "Found what?" "The truth," she said softly. "Why they call you Deathworlders, why they fear you." Aaron leaned against the shelf, folding his arms. "And what do you think it means?" Lyra held the tablet to her chest. "It means humanity is the galaxy's greatest danger, and its greatest hope. You are feared because nothing can break you, and that is why you must be respected." For a moment, Aaron said nothing. His sharp eyes studied her, then slowly softened. "You're braver than most," he said. "Most only see the fear. You see the meaning." Lyra smiled faintly. "Maybe that's because I believe the galaxy needs you, needs humans, needs Deathworlders." Aaron looked out at the stars beyond, the tall windows of the archive. His voice was quiet, almost like he was speaking to the night. "Maybe one day the galaxy will understand what that really means." The silence between them was heavy, but not empty. It carried weight, like the beginning of a story much larger than either of them. Finally, Lyra set the tablet back on the key shelf. She turned to Aaron, her silver eyes glowing with determination. "Whatever happens next, I want to see it. I want to see what it means to walk beside a Deathworlder." Aaron gave a small smile, tired but real. "Then you'd better be ready, because walking with us means facing everything the galaxy can throw at you." "I'm ready," Lyra whispered. The two of them stood side by side, gazing out at the endless stars. The galaxy stretched before them, vast and uncertain. Somewhere out there, empires whispered of humans with fear in their voices. Somewhere, out there, stories of Earth spread like fire. But here in the quiet of the archive, Lyra understood. The story of the Deathworlders was not just a warning. It was a legend still being written, and she knew one thing with certainty. She would be part of it. Her final words to herself echoed in the silence. Humanity is the galaxy's greatest threat, and its greatest hope. They are the Deathworlders, and their story has only just begun.